I forgot to start the recording, so I'm starting that right now. I gave you guys a good minute and a half to answer. Anybody else? What foods not to eat during pregnancy? I like to categorize this as well. I can't remember too much. I think it is because when I had my kids, I don't think I had enough healthy fat and I lost a little bit of memory. I'm joking saying that, but I do think it's true. So what do we want to avoid? And I like to categorize it as don't do drugs that are unnecessary. Don't eat anything that's going to cause foodborne illness. And don't ingest any metals, which the primary one we're concerned with is mercury. So Olivia did say, avoid those high mercury fish. Many of you put undercooked food like fish, like in sushi, or undercooked meats. That is definitely true because they're higher risk for foodborne illness. If we remember last week, primary cause of foodborne illness would potentially be two things: undercooked food and just lack of cleanliness, right? If stuff isn't clean, your hands, your utensils, your kitchen. So we want to avoid anything that might cause foodborne illness. One thing that you may not be aware of is lunch meat actually has a high risk of foodborne illness. So what they tell pregnant women to do is actually, if the woman wanted to eat like a ham sandwich, salami sandwich, microwave the lunch meat for I would do probably 20 seconds. That heat might kill the pathogens prior to eating it. For me, I would say just don't do it during pregnancy. There might be other options for you. But that's a more unique one. Make sure when you're cooking eggs that they are cooked thoroughly. Patty, and you're talking about smoked, is this smoked meats? Make sure that it was cooked to the right temperature if you're smoking it yourself. If it's smoked turkey, lunch meat, deli lunch meat, I would just microwave it 15-20 seconds. It's not that big of a deal. And remember, with foodborne illness, these are all things that potentially could get someone sick. They're not going to get someone sick. Just because they ate one piece of lunch meat or had a piece of sushi during pregnancy, it doesn't mean the baby or the mom is going to get sick. It's just a higher risk. So, the woman needs to make her own choices what she's worried about foodborne illness, just minimize the options of getting that. Mata did say unwashed produce. That would be the same situation. Remember, we talked about the produce being in farms where animals are probably walking around. Wash that up so we're not getting any E. coli on it. Now I'll bring you to drugs. When we say no unnecessary drugs, well, for health and wellness purposes, none of us should have unnecessary drugs, right? But it's really more important for the woman who's pregnant, because a woman has a lot of weight on her, but the baby might only be 1 or 2 pounds during pregnancy. This even goes for breastfeeding. If we have like a 7 or 8 pound baby that we're breastfeeding, that's a little bit of weight. So that drug is going to have a more profound impact on a small body than it will on the adult body. So whether it's alcohol or caffeine or over-the-counter medication like Tylenol, ibuprofen, anything like this, the adult body can handle that, but the little body cannot. So we do want to avoid unnecessary drugs. Now, there's 20 students in class right now. We could all debate for an hour on whether a woman could have 1 glass of alcohol or 1 cup of coffee. And we could find evidence if we search that says it's okay. We could find evidence if we search that says no, absolutely not. You have to, again, with controversial issues like this, you have to weigh the pros and cons. If I was to tell you the textbook answer, they'd say absolutely no alcohol whatsoever, because there's no known evidence that any amount is safe if we want to prevent that from getting to the baby. Now, women who drink regularly during pregnancy have had children with birth defects, both mental and physical birth defects. One of them is called the fetal alcohol syndrome. I can't tell you a safe level of drink that would prevent fetal alcohol syndrome. And it's mostly cognitive defects for the child, but it also would be physical in that situation. If we move on to caffeine, same story. I don't know there's not one safe level, but one of the outcomes if a woman drinks a lot of caffeine during pregnancy is low birth weight. So maybe the baby's not developed fully. You guys, I don't know if anybody think to yourself, has anybody had a baby or not? I don't know if you guys drank alcohol or caffeine during pregnancy or if your moms did. You can ask them. What I can say is I would drink 1 cup of 8 ounces of coffee in my second pregnancy. The first one, I was like, I'm going to give up everything I'm not supposed to drink, blah, 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 blah. Did it perfectly. The second one, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need my coffee because I have a 2-year-old running around and I need my little coffee in the morning to get me up. So I do think with the caffeine, a small amount probably isn't going to cause much issues, but certainly we do not want someone drinking soda with caffeine or Red Bull with high levels of caffeine every day. So, yeah, I did get a question in the chat room from Kiana about drinking alcohol but didn't know you were pregnant. This happens to a lot of women. It happened to me too. So even though I feel stupid saying this right now, even though I was trying to get pregnant, I didn't realize I was. And a lot of women can say this. That first week or 2 that you're pregnant, you don't know. Pregnancy tests only really show, I think it's like a week after you missed a period. So you can go a couple weeks without knowing. If you take a pregnancy test too soon, like 2-3 days after conception, it's not going to show you're pregnant. What happens with a pregnancy test is the hormones need to be elevated, and which occurs slowly in the first few days. But after about a week or 2 of pregnancy, those hormone levels will be high enough to be detected from a pregnancy test. So now you know you're pregnant. Well, what happened during those first 2 weeks you didn't know you were pregnant? Did you drink alcohol, caffeine? Did you have some sushi? What I can say is once you realize you're pregnant, that's the time definitely to stop. Plenty of women had the issue where they're like, oh my gosh, I had way too much alcohol and I was pregnant. What's going to happen to my baby? And if the woman stopped immediately when she found out, you've still got a good 8.5 months that the baby's not around that. Most babies are fine. The ones where we're finding problems are the women who drank throughout pregnancy. The first couple of days, I could say, yeah, it's not an ideal situation, but for most of those that I've been aware of, there wasn't a problem. There are some women, I mean, again, I'm almost 50 now, so there were women when my mom was pregnant that regularly drank alcohol. I came out okay. Again, this is a risk factor, but we need to minimize those now that we have education in terms of preventing problems for the baby. So minimizing, avoiding caffeine, avoiding alcohol is the best bet. And then clearly things that might cause foodborne illness. One other I was going to talk about. David had a good one about high sugar intake. I think that's a good idea too. We haven't gotten to diabetes yet, but I believe the percentage of women getting diabetes during pregnancy is going up. And it might be something like 20% of the population right now. So what we need to do is I think maybe Patty said this too, minimize the sugar intake so that we don't predispose the baby or mom to getting gestational diabetes during pregnancy. Okay, those are all great ideas. I'm going to show you a quick image and then we're going to watch a video on pregnancy, nutrition and pregnancy. So here we have the do's and don'ts. Let's see if we got them all. Eat more calcium. Can you guys see my screen? No, I didn't share the screen. Hold on. All right, you see it now? Do eat more calcium. And they give us really good ideas for calcium, vitamin D, iron, zinc, B12, folic acid. So if we look at those healthy foods, we'd also be getting a little bit more carbs, protein, and healthy fat. Dark green leafy vegetables, legumes, which are beans, seeds, milk, whole grains, nuts, and a little bit more protein. Good option. I know that someone mentioned in the chat room a little bit more dairy. That would probably be a good option for your protein intake because the dairy does have protein, fat, and carbs in it. What should that pregnant woman avoid? Don't overdo fish, especially that with high mercury. Don't consume unnecessary drugs. If you're going to do deli meat, maybe microwave that at first. Cook your eggs and seafood thoroughly. Avoid artificial sweeteners, any added sugar, or those empty calories. I know a lot of you put for avoidance processed or junk food. All right, let's watch a quick video. On pregnancy, and then we're going to move on to some things about kids.
Visibly reduce the look of wrinkles with vitamin B3 and red complex. New Pond's Rejuvenesce. Hi, I'm Julie Auclair. You're watching Parents TV. During your pregnancy, it's especially important to pay attention to what you're eating. After all, providing nutrients for yourself and your developing baby. Now, that means many women have to make some changes in their diet. Well, today, Dr. Alan Green, author of Raising Baby Green, is here to show us some examples of what foods to avoid and what to include. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Julie. Great to be with you today.
It's always great to have you, Doctor. And first, let's start with some foods we should avoid. These are some things that we eat every day when we're not pregnant, but suddenly when we are pregnant, they're not okay anymore.
The developing baby is more vulnerable than we adults are, and the placenta does an amazing job at nourishing and protecting the baby. But there are a few things that you have to pay attention to.
Okay, fish, number one. Talk to us about which fish we should be avoiding.
So there are a few fish you need to avoid because of mercury and PCB pollutants in there. Things like swordfish and shark, tilefish, king mackerel you want to avoid.
Okay.
Also, raw fish, raw sushi or raw oysters you want to avoid because of infections.
What's okay?
There's a bunch of fish that's great for the developing baby and for you. Things like wild salmon, mahi-mahi, bay scallops. And in Raising Baby Green, I have a long list of all the great fish you can eat.
Okay, listeria can be very dangerous for a woman who is pregnant. Tell us what foods contain it. What should we be looking for?
So listeria is a bacteria that can be devastating for a developing baby. And the thing that's different about it is it can thrive in a refrigerator where most bacteria just don't do well there. So soft cheeses are one place to be concerned about. I would avoid brie, camembert, any soft cheese or any cheese with blue veins in it could have the bacteria in there. Another place you can find it is in luncheon meats. Things like cold cuts, hot dogs before they're cooked could have it in there. Leftovers in general could have listeria in there.
So as a rule, should a pregnant woman not eat leftovers?
So the thing you can do is, as long as it's heated to steaming right before you eat it, it's fine. But I wouldn't eat prepared salads from a deli counter, leftovers, these meats, unless they're cooked right away.
So with other foods, sometimes is it a matter of just like beef, for example, just cooking them a little bit longer than we normally would to make them safe?
That's right. Besides listeria, there are other infections that can be real problems. E. coli, salmonella, toxoplasmosis can be tough for developing babies. So with ground beef, you want to make sure that it's cooked so there's no pink left.
So we're showing a burger right now that is pretty rare.
Right.
That's not okay.
Not during pregnancy.
Okay. Well done. Medium well.
You want no pink visible. That's the guideline for ground beef.
Okay. What else?
And then eggs also, you need to make sure they're cooked so that the yolk and the white is not runny.
There are some other sources of raw eggs that we might not think of.
Exactly. Things like hollandaise sauce.
Right.
Cookie dough is another one.
And a lot of people like to eat raw cookie dough, but that's a no-no when you're pregnant.
No.
But okay to cook the cookies.
But okay to cook the cookies.
Okay.
Enjoy the cookies.
And of course, it's always been recommended to avoid alcohol and to avoid caffeine. But is there any amount of alcohol or caffeine that is okay?
There is no amount of alcohol that's safe for developing baby. And as for caffeine, it's a little controversial. We know that over 1 cup a day, over 150 milligrams a day, does increase the risk to harm to the baby. 1 cup a day, some data says there's a problem. A lot says there's not. but more than that is certainly not a good idea.
All right, let's move on to things that we should be eating and eating a lot of during our pregnancy. You recommend there's some certain nutrients that you need to have in your diet.
Right. During pregnancy, your nutritional needs change because you're building a whole new body inside of you. And there's 4 nutrients, vitamins and minerals in particular, that needs go way up. And the first one of those is folate. And you hear about it to prevent neural tube defects.
Sure.
And yes, it's good for the brain and developing nervous system. But every time you make a new copy of DNA, you need folate to do it right.
Where do we find folate?
And the name gives you a clue. Foliage is the place. Green leafy vegetables is the best source of folate.
Okay.
The second one to look for is iron. A pregnant woman's own blood supply goes up by 1/3 during pregnancy, and the baby has to make all of his or her blood from scratch, and that scratch includes iron.
Okay.
And so green leafy vegetables, again, are a great source. Beef is another good source of iron.
As long as you cook it well, right.
And organic beef, I think, is a good choice, too.
Okay.
Vitamin B6 is the next one. It helps in making serotonin and other neurotransmitters that can help moms be happy during the pregnancy and postpartum time. So make sure you get enough. 1 baked potato a day will give you all the extra B6 you need, or 1 banana a day would do it as well.
Okay, what's next?
Next is zinc. And that's the 4th one of these, the last of those nutrients. And zinc is something that's also used in 100 different processes in the body, including helping the immune system function well.
So very important.
Right. And you can find that in beef or chicken. You can also find it in mushrooms, in beans, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds are good sources of zinc.
Okay.
Now, there are 4 other nutrients that a significant number of American women are not getting enough, and I'm very concerned about these.
Okay, tell us about them.
First one of those is calcium.
So important.
It's really important. If you're not getting enough, that's going to come out of your own bones and cause real problems there. So you definitely want to get calcium. So milk is good. That's another one to do organic. Next one is choline, a nutrient a lot of women haven't even heard of. It influences the baby's ability to learn, and particularly memory comes from choline, and many women are not getting enough. Eggs are a great source of choline.
Okay, next one.
Next one is DHA.
Important for everyone, whether you're pregnant or not.
Whether you're pregnant or not, but the highest needs in life are during pregnancy, and sadly, it's the time people get the least. Wild salmon is a great place for that, or mahi-mahi is another good source. You can also now get it organic milk with DHA.
Okay, now water is important for people to drink every day. 8 glasses of water you hear all the time, but what about pregnant women? Do they need more of that?
More water for pregnant women, 3 liters a day is the target to go for. I'd just recommend getting a stainless steel canteen and carrying it around with you.
And finally, Dr. Green, how important are prenatal vitamins?
Prenatal vitamins are very important throughout pregnancy, but what most women don't know is the most important days are before the pregnancy test even turns positive. So I suggest taking them if you might get pregnant.
Okay, if you're thinking about it, start taking them.
That's right, and you can get them over the counter wherever vitamins are sold.
Good to know. Dr. Green, thank you so much for coming in. Great information you've given us, and if you'd like more detail.
Okay, class. Let me know. I'll give you guys another 30 seconds to a minute here. If you still have questions about nutrition during pregnancy, let me know if you have any questions. We talked about what more to eat, what less to eat of, how many calories we should be eating. Laura, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a comment actually.
Okay.
My mom's breastfeeding to try to avoid beans because it'll give the baby gas.
Oh, or did her doctor tell her that?
I think she tried with us when we were little.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure about that. I know that beans are healthy, but what you could do is sometimes if the baby seems to be having like reflux, where they're kind of burping a lot after feeding, or they're having a hard time keeping the food down, then you want to, try to see what foods might be causing that. So maybe if the woman stopped eating beans for a week or 2 and see if the baby's symptoms go away, that might be a good recommendation. So thank you, Laura. Let's see. I think something's in the chat. So a question about farmed fish. If you know what the diet of the fish was, it's probably you can make a better decision on whether you can eat that or not. For fish, what we're worried about mostly for pregnant women is metals, the mercury. So if you are for sure that there's no mercury in that fish, then you could probably eat as much as you would like. But I don't know how exactly you would be sure if it was wild caught, or like even the farm fish are in sometimes open waters, lakes, and the sea. And what happens is the mercury is getting run off from pollution into the water. So the fish isn't necessarily eating the mercury as much as it's absorbing it through its skin, through its scales and such. So if you were for sure that it didn't have mercury in it, then you could potentially eat as much as you want during pregnancy. Yes, that would be the answer to that. What they say is the smaller fish tend to have less mercury. If you're raising fish yourself, I can't imagine that it would have mercury. Depending where you're getting your water from, right? You could get the water tested to see if there's any heavy metals in the water. This would be a good time to say we're not only worried about mercury in terms of metals in water, but also lead. There were some reports of cases of lead in the water, even in places near us. I think Detroit was one of them, or is it Flint, Michigan, where the lead was being too much in the water. So you could get the water tested, yeah, and then if it's clean and good to go, you probably eat as much as needed. All right, any other questions on pregnancy? My next question for you guys is, what do you think an average baby birth weight is? How much does an average baby weigh? A healthy average baby weigh at birth? Let's see what you guys are saying. Jalen, I hope you mean pounds. So the average birth weight is 7 to 9 pounds. The average height at birth, we call it height even though they're not standing, right, is 19 to 21 inches. And those are the average. So what we're aiming at is for a normal weight woman who's pregnant to gain about 25 to 35 pounds. And that would equate to hopefully the healthy birth weight of 7 to 9 pounds. The question is, do you guys know what you were at your birth? Do you know what you weighed? I think I was on the smaller end of normal. I was like 7. Now, it doesn't mean if you're outside those ranges that there's going to be a problem. It doesn't mean that. And I'm looking at some of the numbers you guys are putting up right now. My husband and I were both of normal weight. And the reason I'm bringing up that is a lot of the weight that the baby will be is genetic. I'm a firm believer in that. That the weight is really, predetermined by genes. So what mom or dad weighs, potentially, the kid's going to weigh around the same at their birth weight. If the baby's born early, there's a chance that it's going to be underweight. If the baby's born late, there's a chance it might be overweight. The other issue we've got to worry about is that diabetes. If the woman has gestational diabetes, the babies tend to be very large. I'll give you a good example. I did have gestational diabetes. My first son was about 11 pounds. Alicia said the same thing. Now, what did you weigh? Oh, you were 9 pounds. Okay, so yeah, it's still normal, but a little higher on the within the normal range, but at the high end of normal. So we've got to watch that. A couple of other 9.23, because it's going to be, number one, it's going to be hard to give birth to a big baby. So I did unfortunately have to have C-sections. And the other issue with the gestational diabetes is, even though the baby's weight is big, sometimes their their systems of their body are not fully developed. So I know they worry a lot about the respiratory system being underdeveloped with a diabetic. And then when that baby's born, we don't want them to go in hypoglycemia or low blood glucose right away. So we've got to watch that. Those are the main issues with being overweight at birth. And then underweight, a lot of it is, I would say the baby is born early, or the mom's not eating enough healthy food. So we've got to watch those two issues. Being born early, there's a lot of causes of preterm labor. One is drug use. It could be like the caffeine or over-the-counter drug use or recreational drug use. Foodborne illness actually causes preterm labor. Dehydration causes preterm labor. So women that are pregnant in the hot summer months really have to watch their water and electrolyte intake. The woman is dehydrated, it's going to put her in labor. So we've got some issues to deal with in terms of why it's so important to eat healthy during pregnancy. I want to move on to talking about health food for kids. And Patty, did you have a question before we do that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about working out in pregnancy.
Say it one more time, because it got cut off a little.
Working out in pregnancy?
Working out during pregnancy. As long as the woman is healthy, she should continue to do everything she had been already doing. There's a couple of changes to make. Trimester, we don't want any high impact, which is doing anything with more than 1 foot off the ground. Walking is still okay. You might want to cut back on like running or jumping in that 3rd trimester. But there have been women, even professional athletes, that have played all the way up through the time they gave birth. And this is an issue. I know, like there's the WNBA or professional softball leagues. These women are actually trying to figure out when is the best time to get pregnant so they can still work and yet have a baby. And there's been women who have competed in sports during pregnancy, as long as there's no complications. Now, if the woman has a complication early on, blood pressure problems, glucose problems, placenta problems, then you have to follow your doctor's advice. For some women, they actually have to recommend bed rest, right, to keep that baby. Doing your core, like abdominals, it shouldn't be an issue as long as you can do it. I'm laughing because I always make fun of myself. By the time I hit that end of 2nd trimester and beginning, I'm lucky I could stand up, let alone do a sit-up, because I was so big. Do what you feel you're comfortable of. You're not going to hurt the baby by doing an ab workout, but I don't think you're really going to be able to, towards the end of the 2nd or 3rd, because that baby is taking up so much room. There are other things you could do rather than a sit-up. You could do, I don't know if you've heard of those. They probably have a name. You get on your hands and knees and alternate lifting your legs straight, and that you tighten your core while you're doing that. That might be a good option. They don't want you laying on your stomach in the 3rd trimester. So hopefully that answers your question. Safe amount of caffeine, as we recall from the video, no more than 1 8-ounce cup per day of regular home brewed coffee. I would cut out the Starbucks and the Dunkin' Donuts because that tends to have more than home brewed. So going on to our kids, the question is, they should really eat the same kind of foods that we're recommending for apparently healthy adult. They need to eat half their foods, fruit and vegetable, healthy protein, whole grains. The issue then becomes of, are they doing that, right? If we had an average grade school kid, even high school kid, and we said, okay, here's your food, and we gave them half their plate fruits and vegetables, whole grain, wheat, quinoa, pasta, in a whole healthy protein, would they eat that? Kids eat what they're given. So a lot of it is what the caregiver provides. And so sometimes kids could be stubborn. I have one great eater, eats anything I give him, including broccoli and green beans and squash. And then my other child, my younger one, he wants to eat what I consider mostly processed junk food. Chips and hot dogs and chicken nuggets and pizza. And so there's your primary battle. I don't have the answers for any of us in terms of how to get that habits for healthy kids for eating healthy. But I'm going to ask you in the chat room right now, what would be a good strategy to get children to choose the healthy foods? This is a little bit more in-depth question, but if you think a good recommendation or something you've done or was done with you, okay, then type it in the chat room. Patty wrote a really good idea is doing it yourself. So if you're the caregiver or parent, role modeling, right? If you eat healthy, kid will eat healthy. Start feeding them at a very young age the healthy food. And Jalen said, give them only healthy options, right? If they're hungry, they're going to eat what they're given. Alicia said, hide the stuff. I've actually done that with my best friend has a child that is has a developmental problem and will not eat meat whatsoever. The problem is he's having iron deficiency. So we've we've hidden some meats in his macaroni and cheese. We've tried to hide the meat in that. Broccoli trees, maybe arranging the foods in certain ways. Within the house, we're a big influence. Mickey Mouse pancakes. Within the house, we're a big influence. Once they get out amongst their peers and they see their friends eating hot dogs and pizza and chips and soda, then the battle begins. I know my kid would always like to sneak a soda, and we don't have that in my house. But given the opportunity, when he goes out, he's going to grab one. So that's the main battle, but they should really eat the same nutrients we have. What I want to show you next is something that I think many of you may not know. And it's a really cool topic that I enjoy researching about. And it's called the benefits of family dinner. Eating together as a family has a lot of benefits above and beyond just the nutrition and health aspect. And there were studies done on this. And if you look at some of these benefits, they're amazing. And what they're talking about, and it says family dinners, sitting down together as a group. And that might not always be a family, but it might be friends, right? If you're no longer living with mom and dad, it might be sitting down with your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friends. For younger children, it would be, a family, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be mom and dad, mom or dad, maybe even grandparent. But look at the benefits that they're outlining here. And they're talking about 5 meals or more per week if we can get the family to eat together. Better academic performance, higher self-esteem, greater sense of resilience, lower risk of substance abuse, lower risk of unwanted pregnancy, lower risk of depression, lower risk of eating disorders, and lower rates of obesity. Now, I know there was a lot of beeping going on, so let me go to the chat room and see what people are saying. Yeah. So, it's just something to think about. This is going to benefit not just young children, but you guys are now teenagers, maybe even coming close to the 20s or more. Unfortunately, I can't see all your faces, but it's going to benefit all of us with another person. A group eating, it has so many social benefits for human beings that it's something to think about. Can we fit in up to 5 meals or more per week eating in a group with a family? And I do want to show you a quick video before we move on from this topic that discusses this. Let me make sure yep. Okay.
At 8:06, it's time for Health Watch. And this morning, some good news for parents. Something as simple as sitting down together for dinner with your children may keep them away from smoking, drinking, and drugs. A new survey out this morning finds that teens who have dinner with the family fewer than 3 times a week are twice as likely to use tobacco and alcohol and 1.5 times more likely to smoke marijuana. Early Show contributor Dr. Jennifer Hartstein, a child and adolescent psychologist, is here now with more. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we should point out, it seems like a no-brainer, but I think it's important to clarify, you can't just sit down and eat with your kids. You actually have to talk to them about their lives.
Absolutely. It's important to sit down, open conversation, ask what's going on, share with them what's going on for you, really make it a dialogue at the dinner table, which I think is really important and something that's getting lost in our very busy lives.
Because we are all so busy.
Yes.
And this study, which was done by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse, which is very reputable, shows they'll drink less, smoke less, won't turn to drugs.
Right.
But there are other things as well that have been proven to go down as a result of having family dinners.
Yes, it shows that it's a protective factor for so many risky behaviors. They're going to have less mental illness. They're going to be more open. It's going to help them in school. It's going to promote positive behaviors and decrease a lot of the negative behaviors we talk so much about. So anyway, you look at it, it's a protective factor to sit and have dinner together.
And that's because the more you know, the likelier you are to raise a healthier kid.
Absolutely. And the more the kids feel connected to you, the more likely they are to come and talk to you.
When something is wrong.
When something's wrong, when they need help, if something's going on. So how great to have open communication back and forth so that you can really encourage that in your house.
But that realistically is easier said than done.
All of these
how
things.
do we make time in our crazy lives to do this?
It's really, really hard. So there's a couple things to think about. We schedule our lives so much. So the first thing we can try and do is schedule it in as much as anything else. 2 or 3 times still is better amount than no times at all. So really try and find the time to do that in your lives.
It's the first thing to go, though, when other things come up. So if you do schedule it in, you should stick to it. This is not a schedule that you can cancel.
No, it's a non-negotiable. Make it happen every time. If you say that Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday we're having dinner, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, it has to happen. And if you have to cancel, reschedule another night.
All right. And I know that's what I was going to say. At my house, sometimes we're guilty. The TV's on in the background, or my husband or I have the BlackBerry.
Yes. And you're not setting a great example for your kids either. So you really want to make it tech-free zone. There are no technology on the table, TV's off, interactions, conversation with one another. That's going to be key in all of this.
All right. And what else? Do you want to be pointed in your questions? You just want to have a free-flowing conversation?
You know, open-ended questions, think it through, leave it open. And you also want to make it a group effort. Try and do this together. Maybe Sunday, everybody works together in the kitchen to plan for the meals for the week so that you run in and you can just make it happen.
All right. And it's not just about dinner. Just find quality time, any time during the day that you can squeeze it in.
Any time that's a teachable moment is really important.
Thank you, Dr.
I want to comment on that too. It doesn't necessarily only have to be dinner. It could be breakfast, it could be lunch, it could be a late night snack, whatever is going to work. But I do like this idea quite a bit in terms of benefiting ourselves, benefiting our kids, to try to fit that in. Okay. We have one other quick topic because we're running out of time. I need to save some time to give you guys for your homework on Thursday. Senior citizens, what their biggest changes are compared to an apparently healthy adult. And this image on your screen, I'll make it a tiny bit bigger for you guys, talks about the senior concerns. The top ones are lack of desire to eat. This does happen oftentimes if the senior is eating alone, getting back to that huge issue about eating with other people. I find that if a senior lives alone, they're less likely to eat healthy. They're less likely to eat in general, just in period. So maybe finding someone for them to eat with, or finding several times per week where they're eating with another person, inviting them over, is helpful. Medication side effects, sometimes that causes them not to eat enough or maybe overeat, constipation, dehydration. A big one really is the dehydration. When I was searching up top 5 reasons seniors end up in the ER, within the top 5 reasons of a senior citizen going to the ER is dehydration. They just don't drink enough water. This could lead to lots of problems with their blood pressure and urinary tract infections, kidney infections, kidney stones. So we have to make sure that they're drinking enough. So you may think about who you know that's a senior citizen right now and making sure that we remind them to drink water. We will lose our thirst mechanism as we age, which means we don't feel thirsty. And that causes a lot of our seniors to end up dehydrated and potentially with health risks because of that. Complicating that might be if they're on any type of medication which causes dehydration, because the drugs sometimes take extra water out of the system. So making sure they're drinking the water along with the electrolyte is very important. Okay. After the age of 60, this is another interesting study that I came across. After the age of 60, we do not want people to lose weight. Losing weight after the age of 60 increases the risk of mortality. So what we need to do is get to a healthy weight before we get to age 60 and then stay at that healthy weight. Now, a confounding factor for this might be chronic diseases occur more often after the age of 60, which can cause weight loss. And so are those diseases actually causing the increased risk of mortality? So there is a confounding factor in that research, but we want to try to get to a healthy weight and then stay that throughout our lifespan. So just a couple of quick ideas with the seniors. You know, they have to eat healthy foods just like an apparently healthy adult does, but let's really make sure they're eating. Sometimes seniors, if they've gotten dementia or memory loss, they forget to eat. They can't remember if they took their medication. They can't remember if they had lunch. They don't remember how to cook for themselves. And then that whole dehydration issue. All right, so I'm going to move through that. There are in your learning module for this week, I don't want to, there was a lot to cover. I don't want to skip anything that you guys are interested in learning about. But we are in learning module 12. In that learning module, guys, there is a PowerPoint that covers all kinds of things, nutrition through the ages. There is a lot of links. Everything I've showed you today, plus more about videos, pregnancy, kids, and seniors. There is a couple articles about nutrition for elderly as well. Okay, I want to quickly get to the chat room because I heard a couple of different things. My grandma's on a diet. Should I stop her? I don't know what her weight is right now, or if she is a healthy individual right now. I would hate to have any senior who is within normal weight trying to cut. What I would say is focus more on eating healthy more than weight loss. If we eat healthy, guys, this goes for every one of us, including our seniors, our body would get to a normal weight. If we eat healthy and exercise, we would get to a normal body composition. What's standing in our way a lot of times is processed food, liquid calories like alcohol, soda, and lack of exercise. So I think for our seniors, let's focus more on, we're going to eat healthy food, but eat as much healthy food as you want. And then the exercise, I would say, is walk. Maybe do some resistance training, right? Because then we're getting our cardio and our resistance. And the resistance training for them may be calisthenics, using their own body weight, using weights, going to a fitness center, or using weights within the home now that we're in COVID. So I don't like to focus on weight loss more so than I focus on healthy lifestyle. So Patty, I hope that helps answer your question. I would tell grandma, don't worry about what you weigh, but let's worry about if you have healthy behaviors of eating healthy things and so forth. We've got an assignment due Thursday. So I'm going to talk about that for the last few moments of our class. Hopefully this is going to be a fun one for you guys. The assignment is on fast food. And now is a good time to tell you we are covering 2 learning modules this. We are covering learning module 12, which is nutrition through the lifespan, and learning module 10, which is fast. So Thursday, you guys talk about fast food. What I want you to do for Thursday is you're going to verbally speak, first in small groups, then in the whole class. I want one option of a fast food that is somewhat healthy and one option of a fast food that is so unhealthy we should avoid it altogether. Now, the nutrients I want you to talk about is you're going to pick a fast food item and tell the class its total calories, the amount of sodium. I'm writing this down as I'm telling you. The amount of total calories, the amount of sodium, the total fat, and the total sugar that's in the fast food. For instance, I want to make sure I'm still sharing my screen. Yeah. For instance, if I decided to go to McDonald's, you could pick any restaurant you want, and you would find out they have a nutrition calculator. But you could do Wendy's, Taco Bell, Portillo's, whatever you want. You're going to go into, let's see, their nutrition calculator and find a meal that maybe you're thinking about eating. Like if I was to say I'm trying to find the worst in terms of health, I would probably pick this thing. My kid wants to eat this. And let's see here. I feel like I'm going to sneeze for a minute. That's why I'm taking a break here. But it tells me their total calories, sodium, total sugar, and total fat. And so just jot it down on a piece of paper. You don't have to turn anything in. But you're going to talk in a small group. And then from that small group, we're going to ask somebody to say what was the worst food item they found and what was the healthiest food item they found. And you can even do a calculation and say, if I was to eat this burger plus fries plus a large drink, what would that be? So we're looking for one somewhat healthy item and one very unhealthy item. Now, if you go into Learning Module 10, I do have a fast food nutrition calculator in here. You can use this one, or you could just search in Google on your own. We're looking for total calories, sodium, total fat, and total sugars. You're looking for one healthy item and one, see who can find like the most unhealthy item at a fast food restaurant. You could do the same restaurant, like you could do 2 options from McDonald's, or you could do 2 different restaurants. You can say, well, I'm going to get my really unhealthy thing from Burger King, and I'm going to get my somewhat healthy thing from Kentucky Fried Chicken. So, yeah, it could be 2 different restaurants, or it could be the same. That would be up to you. So what get yourself a piece of paper, write down your one healthy item, write down your one unhealthy item. Maybe it's something you eat and you're just interested in seeing what's in that. You can do that too, okay? And then in class, we're going to go into small groups. I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes. You discuss what you have within your group, and then I'm going to ask you for one person to report the best thing, the healthiest thing you guys found in your group, and the worst thing you found in your group. Okay. Patty, you can use that food calculator just in doing your research to get ready for Thursday. And it's in Learning Module 10. Okay. Or just Google it, right? You can say, I'm trying to think of another place. You can even do a quick meal like from TGI Friday or Culver's, or I don't know. Then, you're writing down just on a piece of paper if I was to order this particular meal, how many total calories, how much total sodium, how much total fat, how much total sugar. Okay. You can even do Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts if you want. Okay. You could do one burger, one, sandwich, or you can do a whole meal. Like you can do, what if I got like a 10-piece chicken tender from Hooters with a side of fries and a Coke? What would that add up to? So be unique in what you pick, but you're going to report it in a small group and then to the whole class. Patty, you're only writing total calories. Let me type this out in case other people want to take note. So we're doing total calories. Okay, we're doing total sodium. And we're going to do total fat and total sugars. You could do more, but those are the minimum I need you to have reported on it. So say you chose a Big Mac, you chose a 25-piece hot wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, whatever it is. You get to pick. Be creative, be unique in what you pick. I would assume some of you are going to pick stuff you already eat. You're just like, wow, I do want to know how many total calories are in that, right? It doesn't have to be a nationwide chain. If you go to a local place, you can ask them if they have their nutrition facts. That's okay too. All right. If you don't have any questions and I took your attendance, you are free to go. If you have questions, verbally ask me those questions or put them in the chat room. If you need me to check attendance, raise your hand. Patty, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about, okay, so since you made us use that food calculator, correct? Do you want us to, because I know most websites will have it listed, so is it really necessary to even use that?
You could find your information that you would like.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure if you also have me for attendance. I'm sorry.
And this is still Patty? Let me double check. Okay, I did just mark you down. Thank you for reminding me. Have a nice day, everybody. We do have 2 discussions this week. One is in Learning Module 10 on fast food, and one is in Learning Module 12 on nutrition through the lab. Learning Module 10 and 12. There is one quiz. Let me see. Double check. There is no quiz on fast food. So Learning Module 10 has only a discussion. Learning Module 12 has a discussion and quiz. Okay, anything else? Okay, thanks. Bye-bye, Antonio. Have a good day.